Today, there are just so many different health trackers. You have smartwatches, smart bands, smart rings, and even smartphones that can track some elements. But which is best? Some people might be wanting to track their sleep, and some devices like smartphones can't do that, so you have to rely on a wearable. But then the question is, which one is the most accurate? Now, we'll take a look at that in a bit more detail later. For now, I'll talk about the most important tracking metric for me: steps. Now, why this is important to me is because my health insurance provider offers rewards based on how active you are. So I typically try to walk about 10,000 steps a day, but the question is, which tracker can accurately track 10,000 steps? So the test will be simple. I'll be wearing my ring basically with all the other devices because it won't interfere, but I'll be only wearing one watch or one band on each arm. That way, hopefully, it's not going to be too much of a variance when testing this. And that way you'll hopefully be able to see on screen right now, me just walking backwards and forwards until we get to like 100 or 1,000 steps. I'll then multiply it to work out the average, and hopefully we'll be able to see some fairly accurate step results. Now let's take a look at the results. So I did 100 steps on each device. So the error rate you can see, and if you multiply that by 10 or even 100 to get to the 10,000 steps mark, you can see how wildly inaccurate some devices can be. Let's start with the ring. So I actually had really low expectations. I have tested this ring and it has performed really well for a ring with it being so small and all the sensors being small. And out of 100 steps, it recorded 130. It might not sound like a big deal, but when you do start multiplying that, it is quite a lot of steps out, but it is a smart ring. It's just to give you a ballpark figure, and I never really think that smart rings are too accurate when it comes to steps. Now let's take a look at the more affordable watches to see how they did. So the newer T6 got 123 steps out of the 100 that I did, which isn't actually that bad, to be honest with you. It's actually in that ballpark figure, which I'd say for a smartwatch or smart device, it isn't too bad. Now for the T5, it recorded 0 steps out of 3 different tests. It just didn't track whatsoever. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. I might need to do a reset and work this out, but that one, yeah, didn't actually perform too well. Now let's take a look at the phones. So for the Android, the OnePlus, I recorded 143 steps out of the 100. So that's actually quite a big margin out, especially like I mentioned before, if you start multiplying that to get to the 1,000 steps or 10,000 steps predictor, it's wildly inaccurate. Now for the iPhone, it got 125 steps out of the 100, so a bit more accurate. What I have to say is this was actually really frustrating to test. I had to test this 3 different times because through the first test, it said that I did 4 steps out of 100. Which is just wildly inaccurate. The second test, I think it did about 40 steps. So something just wasn't right. And I think it was a little bit of a delay on the update versus like I needed to leave it for a little bit and give it enough time to update, which is wild considering that every other device here, I didn't need to wait at all. I could just manually ask it to update, or it would just update fairly fast in general. With the iPhone though, I had to wait about 10-15 minutes. Then I did the test again, and then I had to wait, I'm not even kidding, like 10 to 20 minutes for it to update. Insane. I don't know if there's something wrong with my iPhone, and this is why I feel wildly out there, where everyone loves iPhones and Apple products. Whenever I test them and I own them, it doesn't seem to work that well for me, and I just don't know why. But anyways, through that test and the last final test, I got 125 steps. But I had to have a few different tries to get that number. Now let's talk about the hard hitters. We've got the Xiaomi Watch 5 and then we've got the Fitbit Air. These two, I would argue, are probably one of the more accurate sort of devices to use for steps, and I was right. So for the Xiaomi, it got 108 steps. So only a few more over the 100 step mark, which is really, really good. The Fitbit got 99 steps out of 100. So that is like a 99% accuracy, which is just really, really good, especially for one of the cheapest devices on this video, if not the cheapest. That's just insane. Now, I just wanted to quickly talk about heart rate tracking and blood oxygen level tracking. All the devices do a fantastic job at this, except for the smartphones because they obviously don't track it, but all the other devices did a really good job. Some of the better devices is the Xiaomi watch, the Fitbit Air, and also the smart ring, because when testing blood oxygen level and heart rate, as you see with hospitals, they put a clip on your finger because your fingers are some of the easiest and also most accurate ways to test your blood oxygen level and also your heart rate. So the smart ring and also the watches and the smart band do a fantastic job of this. Now, apart from steps, the next biggest metric that I want tracked is sleep. And it's actually really interesting to see how different some of these devices and apps track sleep. The best and number one tracker I've ever used by far is the Fitbit Air. It is unbelievable how accurate this is. I fall asleep really fast, so I know when I check my watch, check the time, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, that's when I'm going to be asleep from. And then when I wake up, especially the last few months or whatever I've been testing this, I wake up and check the time just to see how accurate the wake up time is. And it's been spot on every single time. I also have a young child in the house, so I do sometimes wake up in the middle of the night every now and again. So I also check to see if it registers if I wake up in the middle of the night. Once again, the Fitbit Air, nail on the head, it tracks it perfectly every time. I have had a few issues where it hasn't tracked my sleep. Well, it has tracked when I've fallen asleep and when I've waken up, but it doesn't track necessarily how deep my sleep is in the middle sometimes, and that's due to two factors I found. Number one, the band is too loose, or in my case, too tight sometimes, and also when it has a low battery. When it's below about 10% battery, it doesn't really track your sleep, so do bear that in mind with the Fitbit Air. It needs to be fully charged or have enough charge in it, and make sure you have it loose enough that you can move it around a little bit so it's not too tight and not too loose. Now, the next best accuracy for sleep is actually the ring. It does a great job once again at start time and end time. I want to say there's only about a 10-minute difference between the Fitbit Air and the ring, which is actually really, really good. It doesn't always track when I wake up in the middle of the night though. So that's the only finicky bit. It literally just says I have a great sleep every night, even when I wake up multiple times throughout the night, which is really a bit unsettling because my Fitbit Air will say I had a fair sleep, where this will say I had a great sleep, where I know I've woken up like 4 times in the night, and that's not a good thing. But the worst for inaccuracy is the Xiaomi watch. Now, it does a fairly good job in terms of deep sleep, REM sleep, and things like that, and wake up time it does a good job at. But when I fall asleep, the time I fall asleep is always wildly out. About an hour, so about half an hour to an hour out is consistently wrong, which is just really weird because I will typically go to sleep around about 11 p.m. Let's just say that's sort of like the average. My ring will say 11:05. The Fitbit Air will say about 11 on the dot, where this will say midnight or around about midnight, which is just like, where did you get that from? On top of that, it also doesn't really track when I wake up throughout the night. It does the same sort of thing as the ring, where it just says you had a great night's sleep every night, when that's not necessarily the case. Now, what I've learned from this video is the Fitbit Air is incredibly accurate when it comes to steps, but also sleep, and it's the best tracker all round compared to all the devices I own. The next best, I'll say, is probably the Xiaomi watch, just because of how many features it has and how much tracking it has, and in terms of the steps at least, it's one of the nearest in terms of accuracy to the Fitbit Air. Other than that though, the other devices seem to be really up and down in terms of accuracy of steps and accuracy of sleep, which is the two factors I look at the most. In terms of, like I mentioned, heart rate, they're all pretty much a good baseline. I wouldn't say any device is 100% accurate, but it gives you a good indication. But for me, looking at a whole round for all these devices, I want to say I trust the Fitbit Air the most. It's also £85. I'll have a link down below in the description where you can pick it up from Amazon. I'll also include all the other devices if you're interested in those. But I have to say I've been super impressed with the Fitbit Air in terms of the quality of the device, in terms of the ability of the device and the tracking accuracy of the device. It's just been phenomenal. And for that low price of £85, it just seems like an absolute winner. If you're interested in health tracking, I would definitely recommend starting with this, at least just because it's one of the cheapest on the market, one of the most accurate on the market from my testing, and I absolutely love it because it's super lightweight. I just can't say enough good things about it. The only negatives, as I mentioned, if you look at battery life in terms of how you wear it, how tight it is or how loose it is, it can vary your accuracy results. But if you do get a nice sweet spot where you can wear it in a good place, a good firmness, and it's fully charged, it does a great job. I'd love to know what you guys think of all these products in this video, and what do you use for your tracking? Do you use a smart ring, a smart watch, or a smart band? And if you've tried the Fitbit Air, let me know your experiences down below in the comments. Don't forget to like and share this video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.